Have you ever wondered why happiness seems so fleeting? Why, no matter how much we achieve, it always feels like something is missing? Have you found yourself searching for happiness, only to be disappointed when things don't go as planned? Life can feel like a roller coaster, with moments of joy quickly followed by struggles. But what if there was a way to experience happiness no matter what life throws at you? A way to stay peaceful and content, even when things aren't perfect. Imagine you're sitting in a crowded cafe. You've had a busy day, and the noise and chaos around you make it hard to focus. But there's one person in the corner who's completely at peace. They seem unbothered, calm, and content, no matter the noise or distractions. What makes them different? How do they stay happy in such an overwhelming environment? The truth is, they've mastered a mindset that allows them to be happy in every situation. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore simple yet powerful ways to create lasting happiness in your life. In this video, we'll uncover timeless wisdom from Buddhism to help you stay peaceful and joyful, no matter the circumstances. Before we dive in, I need your help. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us continue sharing valuable wisdom that can change your life. Now, let's explore how we can shift our mindset and transform our approach to happiness. The key lies in understanding ourselves better and embracing the teachings that have guided countless people toward peace and joy. Are you ready to learn how to stay happy in every situation? Let's begin. Understanding the nature of suffering. In this world, suffering is a part of life. We may try to avoid it, deny it, or even forget about it, but it always finds its way back. But what is suffering? Is it simply pain or discomfort? Or is it something deeper, something we cannot avoid no matter how hard we try? The Buddha taught that suffering, or dukkha, is an inherent part of existence. It is not just physical pain, but also the emotional and mental struggles that arise from the way we live our lives. Our desires, our attachments, our expectations, all of these create suffering. But it is not the suffering itself that defines us. It is how we respond to it. Consider for a moment how often we resist the natural flow of life. We want things to go our way. We desire people to act the way we expect, and we cling to the belief that everything should be permanent and unchanging. When life does not match our expectations, we feel pain. We are disappointed, frustrated, and upset. But what if we could look at suffering in a different way? What if we saw it as a natural part of the journey rather than something to be feared or avoided? Suffering arises from three main causes: craving, aversion, and ignorance. Craving is our desire to have more pleasure, more comfort, more wealth. Aversion is the opposite, the resistance to things we do not like: pain, loss, failure. And ignorance is simply not understanding the nature of things as they are. We don't see things clearly, and because of this, we are caught in a cycle of wanting and rejecting. This is the cycle that leads to suffering. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are walking in a park, and you see a beautiful flower. You admire its color, its fragrance, and its shape. But as you reach out to touch it, a bee stings you. You immediately feel pain, and your mind becomes upset. What happened here? You were enjoying the flower, but the bee came and caused you suffering. However, when we look closely, we see that it was not the bee itself that caused the suffering. It was your attachment to the idea of enjoying the flower without interruption. Your expectation of a pleasant experience led to the disappointment when something unexpected happened. If you had accepted that life can bring both pleasure and discomfort, you might have been able to stay calm, even in the face of the bee's sting. This is the nature of suffering. It is not the events themselves, but our attachments to them, our expectations, and our resistance that cause us pain. When we cling to pleasure or try to avoid pain, we create more suffering. It is when we let go of these attachments and accept the reality of life as it is, with all its joys and sorrows, that we can begin to find peace. Now, this does not mean that we should seek out suffering or try to live a life without care. Rather, it means that we should learn to see life as it truly is, impermanent, constantly changing, and beyond our control. When we stop fighting life and start accepting it, we can find happiness in the midst of all the ups and downs. This wisdom comes from the Buddha's understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is that suffering exists. The second truth is that suffering arises from craving and attachment. The third truth is that it is possible to end suffering. And the fourth truth is the path that leads to the end of suffering. The Buddha did not say that we should ignore suffering or pretend it does not exist. He taught that we should face suffering directly, understand its causes, and then free ourselves from it. The path to happiness lies not in avoiding suffering, but in understanding it deeply and letting go of the attachment that creates it. To understand suffering fully, we need to look at it from different angles. For instance, the suffering of change. Everything in life changes. People, places, and even our emotions. The things we love today may not be there tomorrow. This is the nature of life. If we cling too tightly to something, we suffer when it changes or disappears. But if we accept that change is a natural part of existence, we can experience life more fully without fear of loss. Another form of suffering is the suffering of conditions. Our physical bodies, the environment we live in the situations we face. We may experience illness, aging, or accidents. But if we understand that these things are beyond our control, we can face them with grace and wisdom without resisting or complaining. It is when we fight against these conditions that we cause ourselves pain. The final form of suffering is the suffering of the mind, our thoughts, emotions, and mental habits. The mind can be a source of great joy or great suffering, depending on how we work with it. When our minds are filled with anger, fear, jealousy, or anxiety, we create suffering for ourselves. But when we cultivate a calm, clear, and loving mind, we can experience happiness regardless of what happens outside. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not something to be afraid of. It is a part of life, and it can teach us valuable lessons. The more we resist suffering, the more we suffer. The more we accept it, understand it, and let go of our attachments, the more peace we can find. This is the key to lasting happiness. In your own life, take a moment to reflect on the ways in which you create suffering for yourself. Are you holding on to something that you need to let go of? Are you fighting against the natural flow of life? Are you attached to things that cannot last? When we recognize these patterns, we can begin to change them and start living with more ease and joy. By understanding the nature of suffering, we can free ourselves from its grip. And in doing so, we open the door to a happiness that is unshakable. A happiness that is not dependent on the changing circumstances of our lives, but on our ability to embrace life as it is. This is the first step on the path to unshakable happiness. The role of attachment and desire in our happiness. In the quiet of a forest, when the wind blows gently through the trees, there is a peacefulness that surrounds everything. The trees do not cling to the wind. They do not grasp for the breeze to stay longer. They simply accept it as it comes and as it goes. This is how life moves, like the wind, but we often act as if we can control it. We desire, we cling, and in that clinging, we forget how to be at peace. What is attachment? Simply put, attachment is our tendency to hold on to things, people, and even ideas, hoping that they will bring us happiness. But the problem is that attachment is rooted in a deep misunderstanding. We believe that happiness comes from something outside of us, a job, a relationship, a possession, or even an outcome. But what we fail to realize is that all these things are fleeting. They come, they go, and they change. If we attach ourselves to them, we will always find ourselves chasing happiness, never truly holding it in our hands. Desire works in much the same way. Desire is like a thirst that never seems to be quenched. We desire comfort, pleasure, success, recognition, and we think that by fulfilling these desires, we will finally feel complete. But even when we get what we want, the satisfaction doesn't last. The pleasure fades, and we are left wanting more. Desire feeds upon itself, creating an endless cycle of craving that never leads to lasting happiness. In Buddhism, this cycle is called samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, where we are constantly reborn into a new desire, only to have it fade once more. Imagine you're sitting by a calm river. You want to catch the water in your hands, so you dip them into the river. But no matter how quickly you try to scoop up the water, it slips away through your fingers. The river flows, just as life does. You cannot stop the flow. The water will continue to move, and in trying to hold on to it, you will only make yourself frustrated. This is how attachment works. We try to hold on to the things we desire, but just as the river's water slips through our hands, so too do the things of this world slip through our grasp. This is the nature of impermanence. Nothing stays the same forever. Now, this is not to say that we should abandon our desires or stop caring about the things we love. It's natural to want things, comfort, love, success, but it's important to understand the difference between enjoying things and clinging to them. When we cling, we are saying, "This is the only way I can be happy." But when we enjoy things, we are saying, "I appreciate this moment, this thing, but I understand that it is not the source of my true happiness." This understanding frees us from the burden of attachment. Think of a child holding a balloon. The child is happy with the balloon in hand, but if the balloon floats away, the child does not cry forever. The joy was not in the balloon itself, but in the experience of holding it. The moment the balloon left, the child could smile again, finding joy in something else. This is the wisdom we can learn from a child, an ability to enjoy the present moment without clinging to it. In Buddhism, we are taught to develop a sense of non-attachment. This does not mean that we should stop caring about the world around us. Far from it. It means that we should not tie our happiness to things that are out of our control. We cannot always control the circumstances of our lives. People will come and go, our possessions may be lost, and our desires may never be fully satisfied. But in letting go of the need to possess or control, we find peace. True happiness comes from within. It is not something that we can gain from external sources. It is like the light of the sun. It is always there, but sometimes we cover it up with clouds of desire and attachment. When we let go of these clouds, the light of happiness shines through clearly. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is the understanding that suffering arises from attachment. It is our attachment to things that causes us to feel sadness, frustration, and anxiety when they are taken from us. But by learning to detach, by learning to let go of our desire to control or possess, we free ourselves from suffering. We find a deep sense of inner peace. Imagine a person who is always running, always chasing after something, thinking that if they just catch it, they will be happy. But no matter how fast they run, they can never catch what they are chasing. It's always just out of reach. This is what it's like to live a life governed by attachment and desire. But when we stop running, when we learn to sit and breathe and simply be, we find that what we are searching for is already inside us. Happiness is not something to chase. It is something to realize. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is tanha, which means craving or desire. This craving pulls us in different directions, making us feel incomplete. We crave success, we crave pleasure, we crave approval from others. But when we stop craving, when we stop grasping at these external things, we find that our happiness does not depend on them. We can be happy right now, just as we are. When we let go of attachment, we open ourselves to the flow of life. We learn to move with the currents of change instead of fighting against them. We stop demanding that things be a certain way, and instead, we accept them as they are. This acceptance is not resignation, it is liberation. It is the freedom to be at peace no matter what happens. In every moment, we have the choice to let go of our attachments. We have the power to free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving. It is not easy, but it is possible. The first step is to recognize when we are attached, to see the ways in which we are holding on to things that are not bringing us true happiness. The second step is to release that grip, gently and kindly, without judgment. In doing so, we find a happiness that is not dependent on anything outside of us. True happiness comes from within, and the key to unlocking it is to stop grasping, to stop desiring, and to start living with an open heart and mind. Let go of the illusion that happiness comes from possessions or achievements. Let go of the need for approval or recognition. When you stop chasing, you will discover that happiness was with you all along. Mindfulness, anchoring yourself in the present. In the busy world around us, it's easy to get lost in our thoughts. We often find ourselves thinking about the past, regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities, or the future, filled with worry, anxiety, and what-ifs. But what if I told you that the key to lasting happiness is not in the past or the future, but in the present moment? This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is the practice of paying full attention to what's happening right now. It is the art of being present in each moment without judgment. In Buddhism, mindfulness is seen as one of the most powerful tools for achieving peace and happiness. By being mindful, we can free ourselves from the distractions of the mind and truly experience life as it is. But how does mindfulness help us stay happy? First, it helps us connect with the present. So often, we are pulled out of the moment by our endless thoughts. When we're at work, we might be thinking about what's for dinner. When we're spending time with family, we might be worrying about the future. By practicing mindfulness, we bring our full attention to what we're doing, making even the simplest tasks feel meaningful. Take a moment to think about this. When was the last time you truly paid attention to the sensation of your breath, or the taste of the food you were eating, or the warmth of the sun on your skin? Most of us go through life doing these things on autopilot, unaware of the beauty and peace that's right in front of us. Mindfulness invites us to slow down and notice these small details, allowing us to appreciate the present moment. Let's imagine a simple example. You're walking in a park. You may have walked this same path 100 times before, but today, you decide to walk mindfully. You take a deep breath and notice the cool breeze against your skin. You hear the rustling of leaves in the trees, the chirping of birds nearby. With each step, you feel the ground beneath your feet. You're not thinking about where you need to go or what you need to do next. You're simply walking, fully present in the moment. As you continue to walk, you realize that this moment, this simple walk in the park, is enough. You don't need anything else to feel at peace. By practicing mindfulness, you become more aware of the beauty of life as it is, without needing to change anything. But mindfulness isn't just about focusing on the good moments. It's also about accepting the difficult moments with the same awareness. Life is filled with challenges, and sometimes we face pain, frustration, and confusion. When these difficult moments arise, mindfulness allows us to stay grounded. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, we can simply observe our feelings without judgment. We can accept that these emotions are part of the human experience and allow them to pass without letting them control us. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. It's hot, you're running late, and you feel frustration rising within you. In the past, you might have let this frustration take over, making the situation even worse. But with mindfulness, you pause. You take a deep breath, and instead of getting caught in the stress, you simply observe it. You acknowledge the frustration, but you don't let it define your experience. You remind yourself that this moment is temporary and that you don't need to react with anger or impatience. You can simply be present, accepting the situation as it is. One of the most important lessons mindfulness teaches us is to let go of control. So often, we try to control our circumstances, hoping that if we can just make things go the way we want, we will be happy. But this is an illusion. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how much we try to control everything, there will always be things beyond our control. Mindfulness teaches us to let go of this need for control and to accept life as it unfolds. Through mindfulness, we can learn to embrace the unknown, to find peace in uncertainty. Instead of feeling anxious about what will happen next, we can focus on what is happening right now. We can trust that each moment is enough, and that we are enough, just as we are. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is its ability to reduce stress. When we are constantly thinking about the past or worrying about the future, our minds become overwhelmed. We feel like there's always something to do, something to fix. But when we bring our attention to the present, we realize that many of our worries are just products of our mind. They aren't real. Mindfulness helps us see this and, as a result, it reduces our stress. There are many ways to practice mindfulness, and it can be done anywhere, at any time. One of the simplest practices is to focus on your breath. Find a quiet place, sit comfortably, and simply pay attention to your breathing. Notice how the air enters and leaves your body. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the breath. You can practice this for a few minutes each day, and over time, you'll begin to notice the positive effects it has on your life. You can also practice mindfulness in your daily activities. Whether you're eating, walking, or washing dishes, you can bring your full attention to the task at hand. Notice the sensations, the sights, the sounds, in the feelings. By doing this, you turn even the most mundane tasks into opportunities for mindfulness. As you continue to practice mindfulness, you'll notice that your experience of life begins to shift. Instead of rushing through each day, trying to get to the next thing, you'll begin to savor each moment. You'll start to appreciate the small details that you once overlooked. You'll feel more grounded, more present, and more content with life as it is. In Buddhism, mindfulness is seen as a path to liberation. By being mindful, we can free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving, attachment, and suffering. We stop chasing after happiness in the external world and instead learn to find peace within ourselves. When we are mindful, we realize that happiness is not something we need to seek. It's something that is already within us, waiting to be discovered. Ultimately, mindfulness helps us cultivate a sense of inner peace that remains unshaken, no matter what is happening around us. It allows us to stay connected to the present moment, to accept life as it is, and to find happiness in every situation. Through mindfulness, we can experience the world in a new way, one that is filled with beauty, peace, and joy. So, take a deep breath. Bring your awareness to this moment. Notice how you feel, how your body is, and what is happening around you. This is mindfulness. This is the path to lasting happiness. And with each moment you practice, you are one step closer to discovering the unshakable peace that is always within you. Cultivating compassion and loving kindness. In the world of a Zen master, everything is connected, and one of the most beautiful connections we can form is with our hearts. True happiness does not come from what we accumulate or how much we possess, but from the kindness we extend to ourselves and others. Compassion and loving kindness are like the roots of a tree. When they grow deep within us, everything we do, say, and think begins to blossom with peace and joy. You see, compassion isn't just about helping others when they are in pain. It is about understanding that their suffering is part of the human experience. When we feel someone else's struggle, it's like looking into a mirror. What we see in them, we also feel within ourselves. This is the very heart of compassion. Recognizing that we are all in this together. It's easy to get lost in the busy thoughts of our minds, isn't it? The voices in our heads often tell us to focus only on ourselves, to worry about our own problems, to chase after our own happiness. But if we only look inward, we miss the key to true joy, connection. In Buddhism, we are taught that our suffering is not separate from the suffering of others. When we open our hearts with compassion, we start to see the world through a lens of shared humanity, which brings us closer to the happiness we all seek. Loving kindness, or metta, is a beautiful practice. It is about wishing happiness and well-being for all beings, including ourselves. But here's the secret. When we wish well for others, it doesn't take away from our own happiness. On the contrary, it multiplies it. Think of it as planting seeds of goodness. Every kind thought, every moment of genuine care, is like planting a seed in the soil of our hearts. Over time, these seeds grow into strong trees that shade us with peace, love, and joy. At the heart of loving kindness is the recognition that everyone, at their core, is just like us, seeking love, happiness, and peace. When you look at someone who is angry or upset, instead of feeling frustrated with them, pause for a moment and try to feel what they might be going through. That person is not so different from you. They are just in a moment of pain. If you can cultivate a little compassion in that moment, you shift the energy in the space between you. And when you shift that energy, you create the space for happiness to flourish. Imagine, for a moment, that you're walking down the street and you see someone struggling. Maybe they're carrying heavy bags, or their face is filled with worry. Instead of ignoring them or judging them, you pause. You look them in the eye and simply wish them well. You silently wish, may you be happy. May you be free from suffering. You may not even need to say a word, but your heart sends out that warm intention. You will notice, almost immediately, that your own heart softens and a sense of calm washes over you. In that moment, your happiness is no longer tied to your own worries, but has expanded to include someone else. This practice isn't about grand gestures or changing the world overnight. It's about small acts of kindness, both to others and to yourself. If we want to stay happy in every situation, we must first learn to extend loving kindness to ourselves. So often, we are our own harshest critics, punishing ourselves for mistakes or shortfalls. But when we can look at ourselves with the same kindness we offer others, we find a deep well of peace within. Compassion and loving kindness also teach us patience. Patience with others, yes, but also patience with ourselves. Change doesn't happen overnight. We are all works in progress, and to practice compassion is to accept that not everything will be perfect right away. Yet, with every compassionate act, no matter how small, you are building a stronger foundation for happiness. Now, let us return to the idea of connection. Every time we act with compassion, we are weaving a thread that ties us more deeply into the fabric of life. Imagine that each time you show kindness, a golden thread is spun between you and the world around you. The more threads you weave, the more connected you become. It is in this connection that true happiness lies. Happiness that is not dependent on external circumstances, but on the quality of our relationships with others and with ourselves. It's easy to think that happiness is something we can only find when things are going well. When our work is successful, when we are healthy, when our relationships are harmonious. But the wisdom of compassion teaches us that happiness is found in the moment we choose to be kind, to be present, to be compassionate, even in the midst of difficulty. So, let us take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you truly practiced compassion, not just for someone else, but for yourself? Can you remember a time when you forgave yourself for a mistake? Or when you showed yourself the same love you would show a friend in need? When you do this, you create a deep well of inner peace. A peace that doesn't fade when things go wrong, but remains steady, just like the roots of a tree. To live with compassion and loving kindness is to live with an open heart, willing to embrace both joy and sorrow with equanimity. It is to acknowledge that pain is a part of life, but it is not the end of the story. Compassion reminds us that we are capable of overcoming our challenges and still remaining open to love and connection. In the teachings of Buddhism, there is a beautiful phrase, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering." This simple, heartfelt wish is the foundation of loving kindness practice. It is a wish for everyone, regardless of their actions, their past, or their situation. This universal love transcends boundaries, and when we make this wish, we align ourselves with the heart of the universe. So, wherever you go today, remember that you have the power to change the world with small acts of kindness. Each moment offers an opportunity to plant a seed of love, compassion, and kindness. And with every seed you plant, your own happiness grows. The art of letting go, freedom from grasping. Let us begin by understanding something very simple, yet very powerful. In life, we often hold on tight. We hold on to people, to things, to expectations, to ideas about how life should be. And in this grasping, we think we are safe. We believe that by holding on, we can control our lives, avoid pain, or find permanent happiness. But the truth is, this grasping only brings suffering. Letting go is the key to true freedom and peace. Think of a child holding onto a toy, not wanting to share it. The child's hand is tightly wrapped around the toy, afraid of losing it. If the child refuses to let go, they will never experience the joy of playing with others or discover new toys that might bring even greater happiness. So too, in life, when we refuse to let go of things, we are stuck, clinging to what no longer serves us. But how do we let go? And what does it really mean to let go? Letting go is not about giving up. It is not about being passive or indifferent to life. It is about releasing the attachment to things, people, or outcomes that we believe we cannot live without. It is about accepting the natural flow of life without trying to control every little detail. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. When we grasp tightly to anything, whether it's a person, a desire, or even an idea, we create resistance. Life, however, is always changing. When we hold on, we resist this change, and resistance only brings pain. The Buddha compared life to a river. The river flows continuously, and everything in it, whether it be a leaf, a branch, or a fish, is carried along by the water. If the fish clings to the water, it will drown. But if it flows with the river, it experiences the beauty and freedom of movement. In the same way, we must learn to flow with the changes of life rather than holding on to what we think we cannot live without. When we learn to let go, we stop resisting life. We stop trying to control everything around us. We stop expecting things to stay the same, and instead, we embrace change with open arms. When we stop grasping, we begin to feel lighter, freer, and more peaceful. We begin to trust that life will take us where we need to go, even if we don't know exactly what that looks like. But how do we practice letting go in our daily lives? The first step is awareness. You must become aware of what you are holding on to. Are you holding on to a grudge? Are you holding on to past mistakes? Are you holding on to a relationship that is no longer healthy? Are you holding on to an outcome that you desperately want to control? Once you become aware of what you are holding on to, you can begin the process of releasing it. The next step is acceptance. Letting go requires acceptance of what is. It requires accepting that we cannot change the past, and we cannot control the future. We can only live in the present moment. When we accept the present moment, we stop wishing for things to be different. We stop resisting the flow of life and allow ourselves to experience it as it is. Acceptance also means letting go of our expectations. So often, we expect life to unfold in a certain way, but when it doesn't, we feel disappointed. But life is not here to meet our expectations. It is here to teach us, to help us grow, and to show us the beauty that lies beyond our limited ideas. Letting go of expectations frees us from frustration and opens us up to a deeper experience of life. Another key part of letting go is forgiveness. Holding on to anger, hurt, or resentment keeps us bound to the past. It ties us to painful experiences that no longer serve us. When we forgive others, or ourselves, we release the grip of the past. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior. It means releasing our attachment to the pain and choosing to move forward in peace. It's important to understand that letting go doesn't always mean walking away from something. Sometimes, it simply means changing our perspective. We can let go of the emotional attachment to a situation without necessarily abandoning it. For example, if we are in a difficult relationship, letting go might mean not needing the other person to change. It means accepting them as they are, without trying to control them, and finding peace in that acceptance. Letting go also applies to our desires. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need more. More success, more things, more validation. But the Buddha taught that desire is the cause of suffering. When we desire something, we create a sense of lack. We believe that we are incomplete without it. But the truth is, we are already whole. By letting go of the desire for more, we allow ourselves to experience the fullness of what we already have. How do we begin to practice this in everyday life? Start small. Begin by letting go of little things that no longer serve you. Maybe it's an old belief you've been holding on to, or a habit that drains your energy. Practice releasing your attachment to things and people, and notice how you feel. You may find that you feel lighter, freer, and more at peace. You may also notice that when you stop grasping, life begins to flow more smoothly. And remember, this is a practice. It's not about being perfect. There will be times when you feel the pull to hold on again. That's okay. When you notice yourself clinging, simply acknowledge it and return to the practice of letting go. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. One powerful way to practice letting go is through meditation. In meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them. We let go of the need to control our thoughts, and instead, we allow them to come and go like clouds in the sky. In the same way, we can learn to let go of our attachments to everything in life. Our possessions, our expectations, our desires, our fears, and simply be present with what is. When we let go of our attachment to outcomes, we begin to trust life more deeply. We understand that whatever happens, we are okay. Whether things go as planned or not, we can find peace in knowing that we are not defined by our circumstances. We are defined by our ability to stay grounded in the present moment, no matter what life brings. By letting go, we also become more compassionate. When we stop clinging to our own needs and desires, we open ourselves up to others. We begin to see them for who they truly are, without projecting our own wants and fears onto them. This allows us to connect with others more deeply and more authentically. Ultimately, letting go is about freedom. It's about releasing the mental and emotional chains that bind us and embracing the freedom that comes with living fully in the present moment. It is the freedom to experience life without the weight of attachment and the freedom to find joy in whatever comes our way. When we let go, we are no longer prisoners of our own desires. We are free to live with peace, contentment, and unshakable happiness. So, will you choose to let go of today? What attachment is holding you back from experiencing the fullness of life? Take a deep breath and allow yourself to release. Let go and experience the freedom that comes from truly living in the present moment. Embracing impermanence, finding joy in change. In life, everything is constantly changing. The seasons shift, the sun rises and sets, and people come and go. The nature of life is change, but for many, this is a difficult truth to accept. We often resist change, fearing the unknown or longing for things to stay the same. We hold on to moments, relationships, and possessions as if they could provide lasting happiness. But the more we cling to these things, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. The Buddhist concept of impermanence, or anicca, teaches us that everything in life is in a constant state of flux. This is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Change is not a threat to our happiness, it is a natural part of existence. Once we understand and accept the impermanent nature of all things, we free ourselves from the constant struggle to control life and hold on to what we cannot keep. Think of a river. The water is never the same from one moment to the next. It flows, it moves, and it changes its course. If you tried to stop the flow of the river or keep the water in one place, you would only cause trouble. The river is beautiful because it flows freely, without resistance. Similarly, life is beautiful when we stop trying to hold on to every moment or fear the inevitable changes. When we can go with the flow, we can experience the fullness of each moment. This is the wisdom of impermanence. It teaches us to let go of our attachments to the past and future and to fully embrace the present moment. When we accept change as part of life, we stop fighting against it. Instead of feeling sadness when something ends, we can feel gratitude for the experience we had. Instead of fearing what is to come, we can find peace in the unknown. One simple way to practice this is by observing the changes in nature. Each season brings its own beauty. Spring with its new beginnings, summer with its warmth, autumn with its colors, and winter with its stillness. These changes happen whether we want them to or not, and yet they are always part of the cycle of life. When we witness these natural changes, we can remind ourselves that we too are part of this great flow. Our lives are full of changes, both big and small, and each change is an opportunity for growth. Consider your own life for a moment. How many times have you gone through changes? Some expected, some unexpected. Maybe you've moved to a new place, started a new job, or experienced a loss. At first, these changes might have been uncomfortable or unsettling, but over time, you may have realized that these changes led you to something better, something that helped you grow. Change can be a teacher, showing you new opportunities and new ways to see the world. When we resist change, we create suffering. We cling to the past, wishing for things to stay the same. We try to avoid the future, afraid of what it might bring. But all of this resistance only causes stress and anxiety. When we accept impermanence, we let go of our fears and anxieties. We allow ourselves to flow with life, rather than fight against it. Buddhism teaches us that the more we attach ourselves to things, whether it's people, possessions, or outcomes, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. Everything we cling to is impermanent. If we find our happiness in these fleeting things, we will always be left wanting more. But when we find our happiness in the present moment, in the acceptance of change, we are free. The key is to practice mindfulness, being aware of the present moment without judgment. When we are mindful, we can fully experience the beauty of the now, without worrying about what's coming next or what has already passed. We can appreciate the small moments, like the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of birds chirping, or the taste of our food. These small moments are full of joy if we allow ourselves to be present with them. Another practice that can help us embrace impermanence is meditation. In meditation, we observe our thoughts and feelings without attachment. We let them come and go, just as clouds move across the sky. We don't try to hold on to any particular thought or push it away. We simply observe it and let it pass. This practice helps us realize that our thoughts and emotions are like clouds. They are temporary, ever-changing, and not who we truly are. When we understand that everything is temporary, we can find peace in the knowing that nothing lasts forever, not even our struggles. Embracing impermanence also means accepting the changes in our bodies as we age. Our bodies are constantly changing, growing, and decaying. At a young age, we may take our health and vitality for granted, but as we age, we begin to notice the changes, wrinkles, aches, and a slower pace. Instead of resisting these changes or feeling upset about them, we can see them as part of the natural cycle of life. Every stage of life has its own beauty. We can find joy in each phase, whether we are young, middle-aged, or elderly, because each moment is precious, and each stage offers its own lessons. The more we accept change, the more we can appreciate the beauty in every moment. We don't need to wait for the perfect moment or the ideal circumstances to be happy. Happiness is not something that depends on external conditions. It is something that arises from within when we learn to accept life as it is. You might be thinking, but what about the things I really care about? The people I love? How can I let go of them when they change or when they're no longer in my life? It's important to recognize that loving and accepting change does not mean we stop caring about people or things. It simply means we no longer cling to them out of fear or desire. We can love freely, without attachment, knowing that all things, including relationships, will change over time. This love becomes more profound when we accept that nothing is permanent. It's the impermanence of life that makes it so precious. When we embrace impermanence, we also learn to be more compassionate towards others. We understand that everyone is going through their own changes, their own struggles, and their own transformations. We no longer expect others to stay the same, and we allow them the space to grow. We can appreciate the beauty of their journey just as we appreciate our own. In the end, embracing impermanence is not about resignation or indifference. It's about living fully in the present moment, knowing that this moment is all we have. It's about letting go of our need to control life and instead flowing with it. When we can do this, we find that happiness is not something we chase. It's something that arises naturally when we let go of our attachments and embrace the changing nature of life. By accepting change, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. We stop fearing the unknown and start looking forward to the opportunities it brings. And as we do, we discover that true happiness is found in the acceptance of impermanence, not in the desire for things to stay the same, but in the freedom to experience life as it comes, with all its beauty and challenges. Balancing equanimity, staying grounded amid life's ups and downs. Life is full of ups and downs. Some days are filled with joy, while others bring sorrow. One moment, we feel on top of the world. In the next, we are faced with challenges that seem overwhelming. This constant fluctuation of emotions and experiences can sometimes make it feel impossible to stay calm and balanced. But there is a way to find peace amidst the storms of life. A way to cultivate something called equanimity. Equanimity is a state of mind where we remain balanced, peaceful, and calm, regardless of external circumstances. It's not about ignoring our feelings or pretending that everything is always okay. Instead, it's about learning to respond to life's challenges with a sense of balance and understanding, rather than being carried away by them. The Buddhist teachings offer us a profound path to develop equanimity. This doesn't mean we avoid the painful moments of life or the joy of success. It means we accept both with the same gentle awareness, without clinging to one or pushing away the other. Think of equanimity like a calm lake. On the surface, the water is still and peaceful, even when the wind blows or the rain falls. The storms may stir the surface, but the depth of the lake remains unaffected. In the same way, when we cultivate equanimity, we learn to let the waves of life rise and fall without allowing them to disturb the stillness within us. To develop this kind of calmness, it's important to start by understanding the impermanence of all things. We are often upset because we hold on to things as though they will last forever. We fear losing what we have, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a fleeting moment of happiness. But the truth is that everything in life changes, whether we want it to or not. When we accept that change is inevitable, we can begin to release our attachment to specific outcomes. Instead of clinging to the highs of life, we can enjoy them for what they are, moments of beauty and joy that will eventually pass. Similarly, when life brings us down, we can face those moments with the understanding that they, too, will pass. Nothing lasts forever, and this realization helps us avoid being swept away by either joy or sorrow. Let's take an example from daily life. Imagine you receive some bad news. Maybe it's a setback at work or a disagreement with a friend. In that moment, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and upset. Your mind might race with thoughts like, "This is terrible," or "I can't believe this is happening." These thoughts stir up emotions, and before you know it, you're caught in a whirlwind of negativity. But if you practice equanimity, you can stop for a moment and observe those thoughts and feelings without becoming lost in them. Rather than reacting impulsively, you take a step back. You breathe deeply and remember that this moment is temporary. Yes, it might be difficult, but it's not the end of the world. You acknowledge your feelings without judgment and allow yourself to experience them. But you also remember that your inner peace is not dependent on the external circumstances. By staying grounded in your awareness, you can remain calm even in the midst of difficulty. Another key aspect of equanimity is learning to treat both success and failure with the same sense of balance. Often, we become attached to our successes and feel devastated by our failures. We believe that success will bring us lasting happiness and that failure will bring us lasting pain. But this is not true. Both success and failure are part of life's natural flow. They are like the tides of the ocean. Sometimes we are lifted up and sometimes we are pulled down, but the ocean remains constant, no matter what. When you learn to approach both success and failure with equanimity, you can enjoy your achievements without letting them define you. You can celebrate your victories, but you don't get carried away by them. Similarly, when things don't go as planned, you don't let disappointment take over. You acknowledge the setback, learn from it, and move on. Equanimity also teaches us to let go of the need for control. We often feel anxious or frustrated because we want to control everything around us. We try to manipulate situations, people, and outcomes to fit our desires. But the truth is, we can never control everything. Life will always surprise us with its twists and turns. When we let go of the need to control, we stop resisting what is and begin to flow with life. Just as the river flows around obstacles without forcing its path, one of the most powerful tools to develop equanimity is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or distraction. By cultivating mindfulness, you train yourself to observe your thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. This allows you to respond to situations with clarity and calmness, rather than reacting from a place of stress or anxiety. Mindfulness can be practiced at any moment, whether you're sitting quietly in meditation or simply going about your daily routine. When you're washing dishes, for example, focus all your attention on the sensation of the water on your hands, the sound of the dishwashing liquid, and the movement of your body. By being fully present in this simple task, you are training your mind to remain focused and calm in the midst of any situation. In the same way, when you experience emotions, mindfulness allows you to observe them without judgment. If you feel anger, sadness, or frustration, you don't have to suppress or deny those feelings. Instead, you acknowledge them and observe them with curiosity. "Ah, I see that I'm angry right now," you might say to yourself. "What does that anger feel like? Where do I feel it in my body? What thoughts are arising?" By doing this, you create space between yourself and the emotion, and this space allows you to choose how to respond, rather than reacting impulsively. Equanimity also invites us to embrace the present moment. So often, we dwell on the past or worry about the future, and in doing so, we miss the beauty and peace that exists right here and right now. When we are fully present, we can experience the richness of each moment, no matter what is happening around us. Whether we are experiencing joy or sorrow, we can approach the present with a sense of openness and acceptance, knowing that both the good and the bad are part of life's ever-changing flow. Finally, equanimity teaches us compassion. When we remain calm and balanced in the face of life's difficulties, we naturally extend that same kindness to others. We understand that everyone, just like us, experiences the highs and lows of life. By practicing equanimity, we learn to respond to others with patience and understanding, offering them the same peace we seek for ourselves. In conclusion, equanimity is not something that happens overnight. It is a practice, a way of living with mindfulness, acceptance, and balance. When we embrace equanimity, we learn to navigate the ups and downs of life with greater ease and joy. We no longer feel controlled by our circumstances, but instead, we respond to them with clarity and calmness. This doesn't mean that we become indifferent or detached from life. On the contrary, we become more deeply connected to each moment, accepting it fully and embracing the full range of human experiences. So, as you move through your day, remember that life will always change. You may face challenges, but you can meet them with equanimity. You may experience joy, but you don't need to cling to it. By cultivating equanimity, you can find peace in every situation, no matter what life throws your way. The middle way, harmony between extremes. Dear seeker, come closer and listen carefully. Life often feels like a tightrope, doesn't it? On one side, we pull too hard toward pleasure, wanting more and more. On the other, we fall into pain, weighed down by fear or discomfort. But have you noticed? Neither extreme truly brings peace. When you chase too much, you grow restless. When you avoid too much, you shrink with fear. So, how can one walk this tightrope without falling? Buddha called it the middle way. It's not a complicated idea, though its wisdom runs deep. The middle way is about balance, not clinging too tightly to pleasure, not pushing too harshly against discomfort. It's about walking calmly between extremes, living with a steady heart. Let me tell you a simple story. A musician once approached the Buddha, frustrated with his progress in life. "Master," he said, "I play the lute, but my strings either break when they are too tight or sound dull when they are too loose. What should I do?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "Tune your strings neither too tight nor too loose. Do the same with your life. Think of your own life like a lute. Are you stretching yourself too thin, chasing goals endlessly without pause? Or are you holding back, not daring to take a step forward because of fear?" The middle way doesn't ask you to abandon effort or ambition. It asks you to act with care and awareness, avoiding extremes that wear you out. Consider how we eat. Eating too much makes the body heavy, sluggish. Eating too little leaves it weak and tired. But eating just enough nourishes the body and brings energy. The middle way applies to everything. How we work, how we rest, even how we love. Love too intensely, and it becomes possessive. Love too little, and it feels cold and distant. Balanced love, though, nurtures connection without suffocation. But how do we find this balance? Start by observing yourself. Ask, am I forcing something too hard? Or am I neglecting it completely? Sometimes, we get so wrapped up in extremes that we don't realize we're off course. Pay attention to the signs. Rest when your body asks for it. Push forward when you feel too stuck. Listen to the natural rhythms of your life. In the middle way, you also let go of judgment. Extremes love to divide the world. Good or bad, right or wrong, success or failure. But balance sees the gray areas, the space where life isn't so rigid. You begin to understand that challenges are not purely negative, they teach you patience. Success is not purely positive, it can also teach you humility. When we embrace balance, happiness grows naturally. Why? Because the middle way frees you from the struggle of too much or too little. It softens your grip on perfection. You stop chasing and resisting and instead flow with life as it is. Take a moment and breathe deeply. Feel that breath entering your body, not too fast, not too slow, just natural. This is harmony. This is the middle way. When you practice this, even simple things feel peaceful. A cup of tea becomes a joy. A conversation feels rich. A walk under the trees becomes a gift. And don't confuse balance with inaction. The middle way doesn't mean standing still. It means walking steadily, one step at a time, with awareness. Like a boat crossing a river, you adjust your direction when the current shifts, but you don't stop moving forward. In your relationships, the middle way asks for kindness without overgiving. It asks for patience without neglecting your needs. When you work, the middle way asks for effort without burning out and rest without laziness. This balance brings peace, not a dull or empty peace, but a peace full of quiet joy. Now, you might wonder, does this mean I should avoid all pleasures? No, not at all. The middle way doesn't reject life's joys. It welcomes them, but without clinging. Imagine holding a flower, not so tightly that it crushes, not so loosely that it slips away. This is how we hold the moments of life. On the other hand, don't fear pain. The middle way teaches us that pain is a part of the human experience. Avoiding it only makes it stronger. When you face pain gently, without running or clinging to it, you'll see it change, soften, and eventually pass. This is the wisdom of balance. Some say life is a battle, but the middle way shows it as a dance. You don't fight or flee, you move with the rhythm. Sometimes, the music is slow and gentle. Other times, it's fast and chaotic. But when you dance in balance, each step feels steady, even joyful. Practice this balance, and you'll notice something extraordinary. Happiness will no longer feel like something you must chase or protect. It will live quietly within you, steady and unshaken by life's storms. So, ask yourself, where in my life can I tune my strings? Maybe you need to ease up on something that's causing stress. Or perhaps you need to gently push yourself where you've been holding back. The middle way is not a rigid rule. It's a living practice, something you can apply in any moment. When you live this way, you'll find yourself smiling more often, even in difficult times. Not because life is perfect, but because you've discovered the secret. Peace isn't found in extremes. It's found in balance, and this balance is always within your reach. This is the middle way, your path to harmony, your guide to lasting happiness. Walk it gently, steadily, and with a peaceful heart. Conclusion: embodying happiness and sharing it with the world. Here we are, my friend, at the end of this journey. You've walked with me through the teachings, through the ups and downs of life. We've discovered together that happiness is not something we need to chase, but something we can cultivate from within. It's not an external achievement, not a future goal, but a present moment experience. Do you see that now? Happiness is found in the way we approach each moment. It's in our thoughts, in our actions, in the way we relate to the world and the people around us. Every single moment is an opportunity to embrace peace, joy, and contentment, no matter what circumstances surround us. But there's a subtle thing here. Happiness, true happiness, isn't selfish. It's not just for you to hold on to, like a treasure locked away. No, real happiness, the kind that lasts, is meant to be shared. Let me ask you something simple, but important. Have you ever noticed how much better you feel when you make someone else smile? Or when you offer a helping hand, just because? When you give, you receive, and it's not just the things that you see with your eyes. It's a deep, quiet joy that fills your heart, and it comes from within. You start to realize that your happiness is not limited to yourself, but part of something bigger, something shared with everyone you meet. It's like a ripple in a pond. You drop a stone, and the waves spread, touching the whole surface. Now, you may think, but I have my own struggles. How can I help others when I don't even feel happy myself? That's where the teachings of mindfulness, compassion, and impermanence come into play. When we understand that all things are temporary, including our struggles, we begin to shift our perspective. Just because you're facing a challenge today doesn't mean you will always face it. And while you're in the midst of your own difficulties, there are still ways to extend compassion, kindness, and joy to others. In fact, this may even help lift you out of your own burdens. Think about it. When you're stuck in your head, consumed by worry or sadness, it can feel as though everything is a heavy weight. But when you step out of yourself and offer kindness to another person, you're not only helping them, you're lightening your own load. Your energy shifts, your focus changes, and suddenly, the world feels brighter. The teachings of Buddhism offer something profound in this area. They remind us that all beings, just like us, seek happiness. But, most of all, they seek freedom from suffering. When you begin to see the world through the eyes of compassion, you can't help but wish peace for everyone you meet. Whether it's a stranger on the street, a friend in need, or even someone who has wronged you, your heart opens. You see them as human beings just like yourself, with hopes, dreams, and struggles. Imagine if everyone took a moment to consider this. What if, every day, we made a conscious effort to act with kindness, patience, and love toward others? It would create a world where joy is not a rare treasure, but a shared experience. And it all starts with you. Now, my dear friend, you might wonder, how do I continue living this way once this video ends? It's simple. Just practice. Life is your meditation. Every moment is a chance to practice happiness, to practice love, to practice peace. The more you practice, the more it becomes second nature. And don't be too hard on yourself when you forget. The path to happiness is not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about showing up for your life with intention, with mindfulness, and with an open heart. As you move forward, remember that happiness is not something to hold on to. Let it flow like a river, ever-changing and ever-present. Every moment you live with awareness and compassion, you are creating a life of joy, not just for yourself, but for everyone you encounter. And as your happiness ripples out into the world, it will inspire others to do the same. Before we end, I have one last thing to share with you. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. If this video has helped you in any way, if it has brought a little more light to your life, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people and share these valuable teachings with the world. Thank you for walking this path with me. Now go, live with love, live with joy, and share that happiness with others. The world needs it, and so do you. May you always find peace in every moment, and may you carry the light of happiness wherever you go. Until we meet again,